Now, please welcome to the stage co-founder and chief brand officer of Poppi, Allison Ellsworth, and CEO and founder of Sweet Loren's, Loren Brill Castle. Allison and Loren will be interviewed by co-CEO at Omni Talk, Anne Mezzenga.
Thank you so much to everybody for joining us here today. I feel so lucky to get to interview these two women. I've been big fans of their products for a long time, as I'm sure many of you have. But I think I'd love to set the table for some people who may be meeting Sweet Loren's or Poppi for the first time. So, Allison, we'll start with you first. I mean, give us a little bit of an overview of where Poppi is now, where people can find Poppi.
Yeah, so hopefully you do know about Poppi in grocery, but I do think, look, we're so excited. We just closed a major deal with Pepsi and Poppi. So excited that we've kicked off that partnership. And so really, we are still just focused on revolutionizing soda for the next generation. And really our goal is to give people the freedom to love soda again at its best. And so we're excited now we can, get to more places a lot quicker and better.
And it's not just soda. There's some special components to it. Tell us why it's different than what some people might know.
Not only is it, yes, of course, ingredients you can love, 5 grams of sugar with prebiotics, but we really feel like we created a movement within Poppi from being community first, culture first, creator first, and I think it just really resonates with the women and Gen Z in particular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Loren, tell us about Sweet Loren's.
So if you don't know Sweet Loren's, we are today's baking brand that just stands for clean, simple ingredients, but really delicious taste. So refrigerated cookie dough was the first product we launched, and now we have refrigerated puff pastry and pizza dough and pie crust and breakfast biscuits. So the goal is to just definitely have taste be top of mind, make sure that we have convenient products. So like our cookie dough is pre-portioned. You can make just a couple cookies at a time in your toaster oven, air fryer, just really convenient for today's consumer. And we're also allergen-free. So we're gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, egg-free, nut-free. So just free of the top allergens, just so that everyone can feel safe enjoying it, and everyone at your dinner table, all your friends, bringing it to your kids' school. Just trying to create the next generation of baking brand that everyone can love.
Well, we've interviewed at Omni Talk probably a handful of retailers in the last 48 hours, and nearly every single one of them, both in the US and international, have talked about expanding space in their stores for better for you products. But it wasn't always that way. I think there used to be, Loren, you told me something that just had me chuckling. Loren was like, the first time we brought out Sweet Loren's, or we were talking about Sweet Loren's in a vegan or gluten-free, dairy-free bakery product, people were like, ew, gross.
Yeah.
But what went into it? I mean, I think it's really important that the audience hears about all of the time and effort that went into creating this product for a consumer and a modern consumer.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've grown Sweet Loren's for over a decade, so this isn't, this is something I've really been working on. It's definitely tweaked over the years for product market fit. I started Sweet Loren's because I survived cancer when I was 22. And so personally, I just was searching for clean, simple ingredients. I have a huge sweet tooth. Just didn't want to give up cookies forever. I wanted just to find a way to find a delicious cookie, a fresh, warm chocolate chip cookie at home, but have it made of ingredients that I felt good about. So the original recipes were just simple, good ingredients. And over time, I tweaked Sweet Loren's to be vegan, gluten-free, nut-free, really based on consumer feedback. I just saw that in the supermarket, it's so competitive and there's very little shelf space in the refrigerated section. So just being kind of a little better for you wasn't good enough. So we were like, we have to be better for you and really meet kind of the top requests for consumers, which we started to hear were gluten-free, vegan. So yeah, 10 years ago, it was like, this sounds really niche, this doesn't sound that delicious. And, we always had to be like, just try it. And I think now, we were a little early to market, and now I think that, retailers see us as very incremental to the category. So it's exciting.
You never compromised on taste, it sounds like. Like quality and taste have to be there.
Number one, especially, I think for all products, but especially in the better for you arena where you're trying to sell, a better for you option. If it's not as delicious or better than a conventional product, you're not going to win.
Yeah.
So we just focus on picking the best quality chocolate, the best tasting flowers, like the best flavors, so that you're obsessed with the product, and it's kind of just a bonus that you can feel good about the ingredients too.
Yeah. Allison, what were your non-negotiables when you were creating Poppi? How did you think about those ingredients?
I think for us, we always wanted to lead first with the brand over what the product is.
Sure.
I think that really resonated with people. I did start the company from some personal problems. I think the most beautiful things come out of passion. We both saw something that needed to be fixed, and we fixed it, right? And so I think that that's really fun. But I think back to the retail question that you just said, what I think was really interesting, when we first launched Poppi, they didn't know where to put us in the grocery store, right? We were an enhanced water, sparkling water, a sister to kombucha, and we were like, no, we are a soda. And they're like, that's funny, honey, go sit down. And we're like, no, we are soda for the next generation, because we knew what we were. But honestly, we had to prove that and gain the trust with our buyers. And soon after a year or two of being like, whoa, this stuff is flying off the shelf. Look at the brand, look at the marketing, look at the things that they're doing. So much so that we created a brand new destination within grocery called the Modern Soda Set. So our biggest competitor always set in the cold case. We were always shelf stable. Okay. Even though a lot of people used to be like, you versus, and we're like, no, we're versus traditional soda. And so after a few years, we just really worked closely, got the data together, saw what we were doing with triple digit growth year over year. And we created a modern soda set, and now it's in all retailers. And I just think it's so cool that something that didn't exist 5 years ago, that was kind of like an apple cider vinegar, what? has now its own set in a grocery store. So I think it's really cool that, you can kind of prove out a concept. And now I kind of feel like we maybe paved the way for other brands that are maybe not so mainstream to potentially work closer with the retailers as they're more open to the idea.
Right. Well, you mentioned buyers. There's a lot of buyers in the audience here, I'm sure. I want to get your perspective, because I think I have to imagine that being a buyer in a better for you category right now is an incredibly difficult job. What advice do you have for those individuals in the audience who are trying to figure out, what are the ingredients I should be looking for, or maybe even conversely, the ingredients that I should be staying away from, as you think of the future generation, the soda for the future generation? What would your advice be, Allison, to all the buyers in the audience here?
I think what's really on trend and forward thinking right now, especially in beverage, I can speak to, is definitely protein and hydration. Okay. And so I think where Poppi got it right, it was a little bit of prebiotics and apple cider vinegar. It wasn't a whole lot of a bunch of things, right? The consumer needs to be able to resonate with your products, right? So I always tell entrepreneurs that have 38 things they're trying to do, I'm like, dude, pick one, pick two. Because for us, it goes back to early days. We used to have flavors like orange cinnamon and lavender lemon. And I was like, people just want orange soda. Yeah. So it's a little bit better, but still something that people either have an emotional nostalgic connection with, or maybe my mom told me this, or what. You still need a little bit more of a mainstream. And for you, I don't want to speak for you, but it's everyone loves cookies, right? And you just made it a little bit better.
And you got to have the favorite flavors for those cookies. If I have too esoteric flavor, no one's buying it. Clearly chocolate chunk needs to be there, a sugar cookie, a fudgy brownie, the top flavors, because you can't change people's preferences. I think we're trying to have people just step away from maybe what they only thought was the only option out there, but it didn't make them feel great. So we can't ask them to jump over here. It's just take a step over here to something that still satisfies that flavor you're looking for, but also helps you feel better.
We'll be starting there, it sounds like.
No, I think the grocery buyers see a lot of products, and I love having those conversations. So if you're a young entrepreneur, it's they've seen probably a lot more than you think, and they probably know a lot more than you and what's been presented, right? So I also love how collaborative it can be working with your buyers on like, what new flavor should we launch, or what are the trends you're seeing, right?
Yeah.
Because we get very siloed in our brand and forget, there's other voices in the room.
Right. Well, one thing that you have to be thinking about is how you're going to sell to the buyers, the convenience stores out there. But what about your consumers? What's really working? Because you also have to pitch the product to them. You have to get them interested outside of making sure that you have really good quality ingredients and a quality product. What have you found is the most impactful marketing technique that you've been using right now, Loren? How are you getting people to try Sweet Loren's for the first time?
We do a ton of geo-targeting. We do a ton of work with influencers and really just try to build an authentic community. I think that from the beginning of Sweet Loren's, like we never had a huge marketing budget. We grew based on word of mouth, like friends loving the product, having a great experience, having a great experience with an interaction with the product, or like even emailing customer service at Sweet Loren's and asking a question about baking or suggesting a new product they want. We really want them to feel like we're their friend.
Okay.
We like Sweet Loren's exists to like really make the baking world better and figure out what the modern consumer wants. So we just stay really close to the customer. And as we grow in retailers, we're now in over 30,000 grocery stores, how to geo-target and really reach, and announce when new flavors come to different parts of the country.
Okay. So getting really specific on trying to identify and find your core demo and then doing different ideas or concepts in those areas.
And testing, like seeing what works.
Okay.
Like we're always testing different marketing tactics to figure out how to reach the customer and how to just, improve ROI.
Yeah. That's a good segue, Loren, into Allison. One of the things that I've seen you've do a lot of work with is with your influencers and creators. And you yourself being a creator, you were all creating content back here before we even came out. But how important is that to reaching new consumers for Poppi? And in addition to that, what are other marketing tactics or ways that you're trying to appeal to new consumers?
Yeah, and just for context, Poppi launched March 2020, the first week of COVID. So we, from the beginning, had to think differently about marketing. Every traditional playbook that would have worked wouldn't work, especially with us. And we also decided to build truly omni-channel at the same time with Amazon and retail, which is more expensive, but it's the new way of marketing. We almost looked at Amazon as just a way to get cans in hands. Like it was a marketing tool. Someone will walk into a Whole Foods or a Walmart and be like, should I buy this? And they're looking up the reviews online, right? It's also interconnected. And, we were one of the first brands to actually get on TikTok and start promoting in an authentic way with me actually getting on myself and talking to the consumer. But what we learned really early on after going viral in the early days, and just for context, Poppi has like 3 billion views on TikTok, and a third of the platform has seen my face 7 times. And so it's just one of those new ways of marketing that if people are not doing it, like it's not going away. Like it's not all of a sudden not going to be a thing. So I always am like, get on board, start marketing, doing those things. And then look, Poppi also is very sophisticated internally. We have an incredible process team platform, but we also approach our business the same way. So 80% of what we do at Poppi is structured, planned, tentpole events, cultural. We're looking at it. We leave about 20% for like very opportunistic times of how you can something goes viral. How do you make a flavor out of it? This is celebrity just is going like crazy viral online. They're going to the Emmys. How do we be the soda in their hand, right? So we're really good at just being at the speed of culture, but also we hire young people that also know what's cool, which also really helps.
Well, and what does that look like? I mean, you mentioned creating a soda for the Emmys. I followed Sorority Talk where you were like
insane
for Pledge Week. Is it called Pledge Week?
It's Rush Week.
Rush Week. We did not go to a sorority in the Midwest.
No, we did a pop-up with 50 Cent. We had all the hottest, coolest people for New York Fashion Week. We had Vogue editors, everyone was at like a soda party. But in return, the next week we did Rush, and we saw more EMV off of just girls dancing in front of houses while holding Poppi and doing Poppi days than we did from like this huge event. So it's really eye-opening. It's like, don't bring sand to the beach. If it's not online and it's not going viral, no one really cares.
And what does that look like then on your team, though, from an execution standpoint? I mean, what processes do you have in place to be able to react and respond to a viral trend with a product?
We have an incredible, what we call is culture team at Poppi, and people might be like, is that HR? No, it's all things culture. It's an entire vertical at Poppi. So influencer events, social, college, all of this works in parallel with our creative team, our retail team, right? And so that's like not a normal vertical that you see, I think, in a company. And I think we've done it really well, where all the community is in-house. So like the responsing, we don't use any agency for any influencers. That's all our relationships. And we just do it like all in-house. And the team's just quick, man. If something's viral, a group chat starts going on my phone, I'm like, let's go.
Wow. Loren, I want to shift to you here, because I think especially when you're looking for products that, if consumed, could have a major health impact on somebody, like consuming gluten if they're gluten-free. We're talking a lot about Groceryshop, and I imagine most of you in the audience have heard a lot about, the changing search and discovery behaviors among consumers, going to agents like ChatGPT to figure out, I'm going to my friend's birthday party. She's gluten-free and dairy-free. What recipes do you have that will work for them? Or what can I make in a pinch with things that I have in my house? Or just go buy Sweet Loren's, and that's the answer usually. But how are you working with content creators? How are you working as a business to really make sure that you show up in those searches as that becomes more and more pervasive among consumers?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think we're all learning AI every day, every week. It's like a new department in our company.
Okay.
Just in terms of like trying to be on top of it and how we can bring AI to make us smarter, better, faster, hire less people, but be faster. So we, I think it starts with the basics, where even working on like innovation, we kind of built a machine using AI, put in our consumer data. So there's a lot of clean, real data in there.
Yep.
And then trying to test like what new products. We came up with 200 new products. Not that we're launching all of them, but it's like incredible to see, again, based in data, what helps you think outside the box. And then in terms of search, it's so important. So like we study and take all the data that comes in terms of like the messages we get on social media, or even into like our customer service, people's question, the top questions that keep coming up. Maybe it's questions around baking, or where you can find a certain flavor, or like, people even, what's the best thing to bring to a birthday party for kids with allergies, and like trying to figure out how to make sure Sweet Loren's is always showing up.
Yeah.
And we are a digital first company. We are that modern brand. Like we got to be the leader in it.
And I imagine you're tying in then some of the demographic data that you mentioned earlier that you're trying to pull in and make sure that you're spitting that out.
Always.
Right.
Yeah. Geo-targeting, the demographic, like really just trying to meet the customer where she's at.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left. And because you two are experts, you've been in the better for you industry for more time than anyone I've ever met. Tell me a little bit about the changes you think we're going to see in products over the course of the next 2 to 3 years that are in the better for you category. Allison, we'll start with you.
I actually love that we don't know, because like as an entrepreneur, it's such a beautiful thing that maybe the next big thing hasn't been created. I talked about in beverage, like protein's really hot right now, and I think like hydration, and I just think overall better for you, low sugar, no artificial ingredients, I think is really, really, it's like hotter than ever. So you're even seeing big brands make those shifts where they typically might have something with, colors, they're now going all natural, or the sugar content's going sub 10, right? People are getting a little bit smarter. The consumer's getting quite a bit smarter. But what we do know is America loves balance. You say one thing and then you do another. They want to be healthy, but then they don't really do it. So I think that it's still a little bit of talk with the better for you. But at the end of the day, I love that with Poppi, you can have a burger and have your pop, and you did something a little bit better for you. And I think that's like a healthier balance. So I think products that don't take themselves so serious is what's going to go mainstream.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I think today's customer is just like they want it all. I think that we're just smarter than ever, more educated. I think COVID helped everyone be more conscious of just eating cleaner. That we're not invincible. Like health and food are connected, and so I think that we try to do your favorite foods, your favorite cookie dough, your favorite puff pastry, your favorite ways to satisfy your sweet tooth, your favorite flavors, but in a better for you way. And I think that like the customer is also looking for obviously nothing artificial, a clean short label where they understand the ingredient list. And I think that like they want to go beyond that. Like they want delicious, they want simple ingredients, allergen free too. And then by the way, maybe like some new forms that I never even thought of that'll just surprise and delight me.
Right.
So I think that like it's always that careful balance of like what's too trendy, versus that maybe it's not going to be around next season, but like also like what's something such a fun way to rethink kind of a category that's just done the same thing, again and again. And I do think when you think that way, like there's endless opportunity of ways just to like excite, things that might be kind of boring, whether it's snacking or a beverage or, it's just, there are definitely ways to keep it exciting.
Well, and now it sounds like we have tools like AI helping us figure out all of those variations, and then the two of you to help figure out which are the ones that are really going to meet what this modern consumer needs. Thank you so much, Allison, Loren. It's been a pleasure. Thanks to all of you for joining us. Big round of applause for these two.